Car crash cases, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis, Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts. The attorneys with Josh Wright from the law firm of Hollis, Wright, and host David Lamb.
Hello and welcome into the attorneys. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. For the next half hour, we've got a panel here to deal with the subject matter that, trust me, you're going to want to stick around to learn more about, a subject matter that we believe will be of interest to you, and convinced of it tonight. The ground rules here, just in case you're new with us, the way you can contact us at the bottom of your screen. Also, our numbers. Would love to hear from you. If you would like to text an attorney from Hollis, Wright, who is standing by live throughout the program, that number is area code 205-670-1949. Also numbers 205-324-3600 and 844-529-8255. So plenty of ways for you to join our conversation tonight. And leading our conversation, he's the managing partner of Hollis Wright, Josh Wright.
Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you as well.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Man, I am fabulous. I hope you've had a great week.
I have. Ready to jump into tonight's show.
No question. You know, and there have been changes, David, over the last several years, and specifically even in this legislative session, related to criminal law and the thresholds, for example, for certain drug convictions, how DUIs are prosecuted in Alabama, whether you can plea things down if you've been involved in one of those events. So we're going to be talking about those things today. And ultimately, I think the goal is to make sure that we provide some good, useful information for people that may have themselves be going through this, or maybe someone that's a friend or family member that's going through
Sounds
it. So
good.
We're going to be talking about some good stuff. So Waukesha Hazard is with us today. First of all,
Yes,
welcome.
Thank
First
you.
time on the show.
Yes, sir.
All right. And this is kind of an expertise in something you do.
Yes, sir.
All right.
It is.
Tell us just a little bit about your practice and kind of how you got into this area of the law, because not every lawyer does criminal law. Like I could not do it. I wouldn't know how to do it.
That's
so
right.
I'd come to folks like you. Tell us a little bit about your practice and kind of how you got into this area of the law.
Yes, sir. Well, I'd love to. Well, my name is Waukesha Hazard, as stated, and I am the owner of Hazard Law Firm. I've been practicing now for a little over 8 years, and I specialize in criminal defense work. I just came to love it. I started doing criminal cases by introducing myself to different judges, and I formed relationships, and they talked me into trying out criminal work, and I did, and I love it. So I've been doing that for several years now, and I love helping people.
So talk a little bit about this process, because this is David, this is a cool area. So when lawyers go out on their own initially, that don't have an established book of business and may not be practicing with someone else, a lot of times what they do is they go to the local judges.
That's
and
right.
the local judges will assign them cases to allow them to learn through a process how to practice law on the criminal side, and probably even some civil matters, but on the criminal side, and they learn a lot related to those appointments. That's been a good thing.
Yes, we really do. And that's how I got started. So I went to the judges and they started appointing me cases. And from there, I just took over, and I did a very good job on the cases that I was appointed to. And then from there, people started retaining me for my legal services. So that is initially how I got started. Now, we currently have the Jefferson County Public Defender's Office. And so that has come into play, and they are very helpful as well. But that's an established office.
Okay.
But I still practice criminal law.
That's great.
Yes,
So,
sir.
all right, I know there are going to be some people that are watching tonight that are wondering a little bit about what the difference between criminal and civil law is. Let's just, what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about that quickly. Then I want to talk just a little bit about the criminal process, how the process itself works. So tell us just what are kind of the differences between civil and criminal law?
So typically in civil law, you're looking for some type of monetary compensation. So civil law deals with contract cases, car accident cases where someone was negligent. It can also deal with injunctive relief, where you're asking the court to stop something from happening or for something to happen. And then on the opposite side, you have criminal work. And criminal work is totally different because it's more of the punishment. So in criminal law, you're stating that something has happened. Someone has done something against the peace and dignity of the state of Alabama, and therefore they should be punished. So all crimes do not have a victim. Sometimes the state is actually the victim, the so-called victim in the case. So if someone got stopped for and they were possessing drugs, then of course that's not a victim case. But then if you have an attempted murder or domestic violence case, of course that includes a victim. So, the criminal code is outlined in Section 13A, and that outlines everything from felonies to misdemeanors and violations.
You know, David, it's interesting. People tell me all the time, well, you know, on the civil side, all you do is negotiate all day long. And there's a lot of negotiation that goes in. On that side of the law, there's a tremendous amount of negotiation that also goes in with district attorneys related to issues and crimes and things that have been charged. So they fall into the same role of doing a lot of negotiating to try and work through the criminal system to get to the other side where the person has an opportunity to get out and back into society and hopefully do it the right way.
We've got about a minute and a half remaining in this segment, but one of the things you touched on was just kind of understanding the process, and that I think we have time at least to kind of jump into that of how that works.
Yes, sir, most definitely. So initially, the process typically starts with an arrest. And if someone was stopped in a car and they possess drugs, sometimes the officers will do an arrest and release. It would be somewhat like a traffic ticket. So they would not actually take the person into custody if it was like a small amount of drugs, and then the person would follow up to get their court date. But typically, for heavier crimes, felonies, the person is arrested and then they are booked into jail. And then after they're booked, there's a certain process that they go through with court. You have an initial appearance, then from there you'll have an arraignment, you can have a preliminary hearing, your case can go to the grand jury, you'll do pretrial motions, or the attorney would, and then you can go to trial. So there is a process for different types of cases.
You agree, get a lawyer involved early on those cases?
Most definitely, yes.
Because that sounds like a complicated process that someone has to walk through on their own if they don't have a lawyer.
Yes, sir, it's very complicated, and I would also, tell my clients, caution them to not make any statements to the police without first contacting an attorney.
Yeah.
Yes.
When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about some legislative changes that are abreu right now related to changing thresholds on certain types of drugs that someone could have. And I think that will be helpful, and I think Waukesha can help us with that.
That sounds good. We'll pick up right there. We're going to step aside our first break of the evening. As we do so, a reminder of how you can join our conversation. If you would like to text the show, 205-670-1941. That's the number to text the show. Or you can call us at 205-324-3600 or 844-529-8255. Stay tuned. More of The Attorneys coming right up.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis Wright, a personal injury law firm. Thank you for watching The Attorneys. Now, we hope you, a friend, or a loved one never needs legal counsel for a case. But if you do, the goal of the show is simple. Provide answers and legal counsel when you need it the most. Your call to the show is free, so if you have questions specific to the show or related to other accident or injury-related topics, you can call, email, or text us. Or you can also follow us on Facebook or Twitter, or simply contact us by going to hollis-wright.com and click on the Contact Us link. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us watching The Attorneys.
It's common for a potential client to ask, there are many great firms out there. What separates Hollis Wright from other law firms? My response is generally to talk about the strengths of our law firm in handling cases throughout Alabama and the United States. That we've recovered through verdicts and settlements, hundreds of millions of dollars for our clients. That we have financial resources to hire any required expert and to take their case all the way to trial, even if it costs us hundreds of thousands of dollars to do so. That we settle cases for top dollar before trial is needed because the insurance companies and defendants know we have the ability to take a case all the way to trial. That we handle cases only on a contingency fee, which means we never ask the client to pay any costs of litigation whatsoever and only recover those costs in a fee if we win for the client. That we have a staff of more than 20 employees that help us litigate cases from start to finish. That we've had a television show on NBC 13 for 6 years that answers thousands of questions to citizens for free each year. But what I've learned in the last 20 years as a trial lawyer is that clients want more and deserve more than all those things. Those things are expected of each law firm they consider. So with that wisdom, what I tell clients now is simply this. We are a family-oriented practice at Hollis Wright, just like their own family. That we are a team-oriented group that engages in team-building exercises and team-building events because it helps our clients win cases. That we are dads and moms and brothers and sisters. That we are former Alabama trial lawyer presidents. That we return every single telephone call from every single client. That our bedside manner is second to none. So what really separates our firm from others? We're balanced and well-rounded, and as such, we relate to people not just as lawyers, but as compassionate human beings. Human beings that know what it's like to face a day in court. We are advocates, we are compassionate, we are tireless. We are, simply put, Hollis Wright.
Welcome back into The Attorneys. Appreciate you being with us tonight. Before we head back into our conversation tonight, a reminder that attorneys from Hollis Wright are standing by live all throughout the program tonight. You can call, text, email, whatever you prefer. That free, confidential, all fair conversation is yours for the taking for the duration of the show, so don't miss that opportunity. Josh?
All right, so when we were going to break, David, I mentioned that we were going to talk a little bit about some recent legislation that's kind of in the legislative process right now that could have an impact on the criminality, for example, of marijuana use.
Yes,
let's
sir.
talk a little bit about that. Explain to us a little bit what is kind of a brew right now down at the legislature and what your expectation is about that.
Yes, sir. So what we have going on is it's called Senate Bill 98, and it essentially affects our marijuana laws. So I'll back up a little bit. Back in 2016, they changed the drug laws where we added a Class D felony. So unlawful possession of a controlled substance and unlawful possession of marijuana first degree went from Class C to Class D, okay, which is the lower felony. And the time punishment changed and the fines. Well, now they are considering Senate Bill 98, where unlawful possession of marijuana first degree would be violations, essentially. So you would have to possess 2 ounces or more of marijuana to be charged with unlawful possession of first degree. Less than 2 ounces, but more than 1 ounce to be charged with unlawful possession of marijuana in the second degree. And then they're going to add unlawful possession of marijuana in the third degree for anything that's less than 1 ounce. So your first 2 offenses would essentially be violations, and then it'll be a fine and fees. And then subsequently, those subsequent offenses would be misdemeanors on your record. So I believe that really helps out society because a lot of people get caught with marijuana, and marijuana is not as heavy of a drug as some of the other things that we have to deal with, like heroin.
Is this a response? It is getting a lot of publicity, this whole thing, and there are some detractors. There are those who love it. But is this a response to prison, to incarceration, to prison overcrowding, to jail overcrowding? What is this move in response to?
I believe it is a response to that because we do have a lot of prison overcrowding, jail overcrowding for a lot of nonviolent offenses. Right. And the prisons are just so backed up. I mean, we can't house the people. Right. There are some clients that I have that are prison bound that are just sitting in jail because they don't have a bed down at the prisons. In addition to that, I believe several states have legalized marijuana. Because they're also looking at making medical marijuana legal, right, for people here. So a lot of states have actually legalized marijuana. So I believe that it's a play on both of those, overcrowding of prisons, and because some states have legalized the drug.
Do you think, and I know, we all try and prognosticate where things go. Yes. I mean, there are a lot of states that have legalized marijuana. Do you think ultimately that makes its way to the South? I mean, do you think this is the process of, hey, we're gonna expand a little bit, recognizing that people are using this substance and ultimately it gets legalized in a state like Alabama? It seems to me like that someday that may happen. Who knows?
Yes, sir. I think someday it will happen, but I don't think it will happen anytime soon, if I'll say that. I feel like we're probably the last, the South, we're a little more conservative, so we're probably the last to get something like that.
So talk a little bit, you mentioned something was a misdemeanor versus a felony.
Yes, sir.
That's a significant difference. And I know a lot of times you're trying to negotiate and plea down felonies into misdemeanors to help your clients.
Right.
Talk a little bit about what are the stereotypes and the negative side of if you get a felony versus a misdemeanor.
Okay, so the time frame is different. So everyone is afforded in a crime their constitutional rights, and so that's why everyone needs access to an attorney. So misdemeanor cases, they carry up to a year in jail if you're charged with a misdemeanor, which is the lowest, one of the lower crimes. If you're charged with a felony, you're looking at a minimum a year and a day up to life or even death. So the highest crime that you can commit in the state of Alabama is capital murder. So if you've committed a capital murder offense, then you're looking at life without the possibility of parole and death. So the differences are with misdemeanors, the time is a lot lower as far as the jail time is concerned, whereas with felonies, the time is a lot higher, and you definitely have more fees and fines to pay. And the judge will assess those. And if a person is going to prison, then they will probably say, okay, well, 6 months after your release, you must pay this money back. There's the Alabama Crime Victims Compensation Unit. There's a fine that the judge can assess. So there are a lot of things that goes into that. But the felony is much higher than the misdemeanor.
And there are tremendous societal stereotypes associated with felonies too.
Yes,
for example, ability to vote, job applications, those types of things all impact whether or not you can kind of be successful moving forward.
That's right, because you have background checks that we may go through, so that can affect your employment, like you said, your ability to vote, your ability to bear arms, depending on what type of crime, you've been charged with and what you plead out to. So there are a lot of rights at risk, so you have to really think about a felony. So we're always trying to get it reduced to a misdemeanor or even a dismissal if there was not probable cause for the crime.
So, Waukesha brings up a great segment into why you need a lawyer here. If you've been charged with a felony, it has such negative implications. Getting a lawyer involved immediately and quickly is super important to make sure that you at least know what your options are, because there are a lot of options where that may be pled down, where there may be an opportunity not to be convicted of a felony, not to plead guilty of a felony, but to find a lesser included event or a crime. So there are a lot of options. You want to get lawyers involved early.
We're going to take our second break and final break of the evening, but we'll come back. When we come back, what you want to get into?
Yeah, we're going to talk about some practical things. If you're pulled over by a police officer, for example, what information do you give them? Do you have to be respectful? Do you not have to be respectful? Can he arrest you for cussing? Those types of things. Things that I know will be important issues.
Folks will want to know. All right, we're stepping aside our final break of the evening. As we do so, one more reminder, if you'd like to join our conversation, the clock is ticking, so go ahead and take advantage of that opportunity. We'd love to hear from you. The show is always better the more involved you are. So we've got another segment to come. Stay tuned. We've got more of the attorneys coming right up. Stay with us, folks.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis, Wright. As with any industry, it's important in the legal world to hire an attorney that is knowledgeable and has a track record of success. But with so many attorneys out there and so many different types of cases, how does someone decide the right lawyer to hire? In this week's Legal 4-in-1, we're answering the question, what should I consider in hiring an attorney? In-state versus out-of-state, big firm or little firm, recommendations from friends or family, the internet, the phone book, or TV. With so many choices and so much information, it can be an overwhelming task trying to make the right decision. To complicate things, choosing a lawyer is an important and sometimes life-affecting decision and should not be taken lightly. So how do you select an attorney? First, do your research. Look the firm up on the internet. Learn about the cases they handle and the results they get. Second, find out what clients are saying about the firm. Many websites provide client testimonials
or have a star ranking system, use those to your advantage. And finally, talk with a lawyer from their office and ask them questions. Questions about the volume of cases they handle. Do they return phone calls? Are you just a number or a client that gets the attention you deserve? Please remember, your call, email, or text to the attorneys is free. All of us at Hollis Wright want to help answer your questions on real issues you face. Remember, a competent lawyer will respond to every question you send in. That's our pledge and promise to you. Thanks for watching The Attorneys right here on WVTM 13.
Welcome back into The Attorneys, our final segment here. So, well, there's just a few minutes remaining in our program. So if you want to take advantage of the opportunity to speak with the attorneys standing by live, you got about 7 minutes to do so. So go ahead and give them a call at the numbers you see on your screen. Josh?
All right, so let's talk for just a minute about if you're pulled over, traffic stop, how you handle that circumstance with a police officer, to put yourself in the best light with a police officer to make sure that you're really protecting yourself. Tell me, like, what information do you provide? Do you need to be respectful? Can you be arrested if you use, an epithet or a bad word? I mean, explain that to me.
So you must always be respectful. That is the one thing I would say first. Always be respectful. If and when the officer asks for certain documentation, that documentation should be provided to them so that you won't subsequently receive a traffic ticket. That typically includes your driver's license, insurance card, registration. You can even show them your insurance on your phone nowadays because everything is electronic. But always be respectful. Give them the information that they are asking for, and I would caution people to ask a whole lot of questions. Initially that question is, well, officer, why did I get pulled over? And they typically will tell you why they pulled you over. So the officer will get to that, but just make sure you are respectful.
And so let's assume, for example, they say, hey, I want to search your car, or I want you to step out of the car. What are your rights there? Because I know that becomes a little more complicated.
That's right, it does. So you have to give the officer permission to search your car. They just can't come in and search your car. But if you give them permission and you verbally said that, they can go in, they can ask you to step out of the car. They typically will pat you down for safety issues, and then they will proceed with the search. But you have that option to decline, and you can respectfully decline, like, I do not want you to search my car. I don't understand why you want me to get out of the car for you to search the car. Now, once your car is towed or impounded, so just say the person was arrested, then that car is in the police custody, and they can search your car once they have it. So you have to be, cognizant of that.
There are certain circumstances where if things are in clear view, they have the ability to automatically search your car?
That's right. So if someone has some drugs or illegal substances in plain view, then the officer can ask to search the car, because obviously they see the drugs, like maybe it's in the center console. And I will say this as well, the person that is operating the car, whether it's that person's car or not, they are responsible for everything that's in that car. So if you're borrowing your friend's car and you didn't know that there was marijuana in the center console, you would still be responsible for that. So it's always good to know that. And if you and I are in the car together and I'm driving the car and there's marijuana in the center console and clearly it's there, then both parties can be charged with whatever crime. So we both can be charged with that.
All right, so I know it's been several years now, but the DUI rules and the punishments have changed tremendously over the years, have they not?
Yes, sir, they have.
And we're in a time now where DUI is even more difficult to get out of.
That's right.
And the punishments are greater than they've ever been before.
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming you still see a lot of those cases.
I do. I see a lot of those cases. So back in 2012, Governor Bentley enacted harsher DUI laws. So we know that .08 is the legal limit for a DUI. So if it's anything over .08, then you're considered driving under the influence or driving while intoxicated. Some of those laws have changed. So if you blow double that, then you're looking at the ignition interlock system, where you cannot move your car unless you blow into like a little breathalyzer that they install in your car. And that also comes with a lot of fees. And the fine is doubled. So the standard fine is $600 for a DUI, and that's on your first DUI. But if you blow over that, then you're looking at about $1,200 minimum fine. And you end up paying, nearly $3,500 after the DUI is finished, because you have to pay for that interlock. You can decline, just say you don't have a car, but you still have to pay a fee.
Yeah. In the world of Uber all over Birmingham, taxis, it just seems like such a bad decision to risk that with the costs associated with that.
Yeah. Talking about DUI, while we're on that subject, the question we've got here, do I have to be driving in order to be charged with a DUI?
No, sir. You do not have to drive in order to be charged with the DUI. You could simply be behind the wheel. The key can be in the ignition. The car doesn't even have to be running. But if you are intoxicated and the officer knows, or you take some type of field sobriety test, you can be charged with a DUI. You do not have to actually be driving the car. They put those provisions in place because when you're charged with a DUI, or if you're driving under the influence, people can be killed and people can lose their lives. So you really have to be careful with that. That's nothing to play with. Very, very harsh laws.
Also, with children in the car, whether you're coming home from a cookout, a family cookout, and you had alcohol, if you have children in the car, the punishments are increased too, are they not?
The punishments are increased, and then you're looking at more cases that you're charged with: reckless endangerment, reckless driving, because typically the officer may not know you're driving under the influence, but he sees your driving pattern. And then when he stops you, you're not obligated to take those tests, but they look into that. They look at your speech.
I know we're wrapping up. Let me just say this. This is a great example of the interplay between civil and criminal law, and a lot of times we work with one another where there's a DUI that started with alcohol at a bar, restaurant, convenience store, and it works into the civil case where there's a civil claim associated with that DUI.
Right here. Just a minute left, but 15, 20 seconds from the both of you, and if you would, you go first, please.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me, but I would like to say that be careful with talking to the police. Always have an attorney first, and contact someone so that they can help you, an attorney preferably.
Yeah, and the one thing I would say is this: if you don't feel like you can afford a criminal defense lawyer, because sometimes the costs can increase when you hire a lawyer, there are some options that you have. You need to check with the court and some of the officers at the court to be able to determine whether or not you would be eligible for free representation. So that is an option out there. And you just need to look in that, because you want a lawyer at all times.
Right.
Thank you for being on.
Thank
You did a
so
great
much.
job. Great job.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you all being with us, and appreciate you being with us as always. We're so grateful for you joining us each and every week. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll look for you next time. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time right here on The Attorneys.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.